What do you think? Any thoughts, any comments on that? No? Okay. Compassion. Compassion defined. Compassion means being kind and thoughtful toward others. Right? Compassion is at the heart of every little thing we do. It is the dearest quality we possess, yet all too often it can be cast aside with consequences too tragic to speak of. To lose our compassion, we lose what it is to be human. I like a certain tea in the morning. It's a yogi tea, and they always have these little sayings on the tea bag. And this is one I got like 2 or 3 days ago. When you act with compassion, you will never be wrong. Right? Okay, Proverbs.
My friend told me he often went to the same little corner grocery store in his neighborhood. One day, he realized that though it was usually the same woman working there each time, he hardly ever noticed much about her. He felt shocked at himself and thought, for all I really pay attention to her, she might as well be a cash register with arms. So he went into the store, determined to actually pay full attention to her. The first thing he noticed was that she was singing along to something playing on the radio, and that she had a really beautiful voice. When he said that to her, she responded with a wide, radiant smile. As soon as he told me that story, I realized that I too often went into the same store and also had hardly noticed that woman, except for maybe a vague sense that perhaps she was a little grim. I made a plan. I'm going to go into the store, say to her, I heard you have a really beautiful voice, and watch her get really happy and give me a beautiful smile. But when I went into the store, actually paying full attention to her, the first thing I noticed was that she was already smiling broadly. Wait, what happened to a little bit grim? I realized again how much of a person we miss when we don't pay attention. People are people, not pieces of furniture. We each have a life, a story, changing moods, joys, sorrows. And if we pay attention to one another, we recognize that, and our lives are enriched by a continuing sense of discovery. That's the opening to true compassion. Sometimes we think of compassion as a gift, which we've either gotten or we haven't. If we haven't, we're out of luck. But we think of compassion as some kind of emotional reaction that spontaneously erupts out of us. I think of compassion as a natural result that comes from actually paying attention. That means we can continue to cultivate it.
So note to self, pay attention, right? Go ahead.
But I think when you pay attention, you really have to put yourself into that person's place at that moment in time or part of time,
Yeah.
and recognize that the person is and needs. And then
Yeah.
you find how you give compassion.
Right. Go ahead.
I heard this story a really long time ago about this person that was on a subway or train or something like that, and it was late at night, and it was a father and his 2 young children, and the children were kind of jumping around and, you know, being kind of loud and stuff. And so the person, you know, got a little bit upset, and the father said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, we just come from the hospital, my wife just died." You know what I mean? You just never know what is going on in
other
someone's
people's
lives.
lives.
You know,
Yeah.
you just never ever know.
Sure.
And they say if you were in a room full of people and everybody put their all their problems on the table, you probably gladly take your own bath.
Right.
You know, because we forget that. We
Right.
forget that everybody's got a story, everybody's got stuff going on in their life. And we get, I know I do, get so self-absorbed
Right.
that I don't like think about what's going on with other people, you know? So,
I think it's very easy to, and you see it in today's society, that people get focused on so many other things other than another person too. You know, I mean, I think it's sad with teenagers today. I'm sure you probably see
It's not
this
just
too.
teenagers, David.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
a lot of adults if
A lot
you're
of
about to
adults.
start talking about phones.
Yeah.
You
Well,
can't, don't just put it on the
Yeah,
teenagers.
I'm going to tell you a story. Just this past Saturday, my wife and I went to a down Cape for a little visit, our usual annual trip down Cape, and on the way back, there's a restaurant that we like to go to, Cruise. So we had sat down and we had ordered, the waitress had came over and ordered a meal, and I never talked to my wife about this, but a couple came in, probably in their, I would say late 30s, early 40s, and they sat down at the table, and they were directly opposite me, so I could see them clearly. The first 10 minutes of their time at the table was spent looking at their phones. They didn't look at each other. They didn't really look at the waitress when she came over to ask them what they wanted. They just, I saw the husband just say, I'll take a water, and then the waitress comes and brings, and then finally at some point they put the phones down, and then they look at the menu and then they order, and then they went back to the phones. And at some point they started talking a little bit to one another. So you're right, it's not just teenagers, it's all generations.
It's all of us.
Yeah. And it's really that whole connection, we're going to be talking about connection shortly, that we as a society are losing. We're losing. So note to self, pay attention to a lot of little things that happen on a daily basis all around you there. So what is compassion? In recent times, compassion might mean different things to different people. What virtues could be included within the concept of compassion? How can compassion be defined? The word compassion and empathy gets thrown around as much as the words love and kindness, and yet we as a collective society have not come to a consequences or concession as what these words mean. Recently, my wife read this book and passed it on to me to read, Into the Magic Shop. You have it written down in here. It's a excellent book by a Dr. James Doty. Has anybody read it, by the way? No? Reading it. Okay. And it's his life story, and it starts as a young boy at the age of 12, when one summer he goes into a magic shop, and the owner's mother is there, and they strike up a conversation, they strike up a friendship, and for 3 weeks he visits with her on a daily basis, and she teaches him magic lessons, but really life lessons. Okay, and it's a wonderful book that it goes through his life story, how growing up he had a alcoholic father and a mother who was suicidal, and he really did not have, it was a very difficult upbringing as a young child, but he made it through high school, through college, got himself into medical school, became a doctor, and a very successful doctor. And again, talking about, when I read a book, in my notebook I had probably 4 different pages from the book that I thought were very, very appropriate. And the lessons that he learned from this lady named Ruth, because I don't want to get into them too much detail, was 1, to relax the body, 2, to quiet the mind, 3, to open the heart, and 4, to clarify the intent. I want to read 1 page from the book. that I thought really, I'm gonna have to put these lights on. You know what, I think I'll put my glasses on too. Rather than going back and forth. But of all the various pages and all the different lessons that he talks about, I think this is the very appropriate one for what we're talking about this evening. This is on page 232. There is an epidemic of loneliness, anxiety, and depression in the world, particularly in the West. There is impoverishment of spirit and of connection with one another. Studies show that 25% of Americans have no one that they feel close enough with to share a problem. This means that 1 out of every 4 people you see or meet today has no one to talk to, and this lack of connection is affecting their health. We are wired for social connection. We evolved to be cooperative and connect with one another. And when this is cut off, we get sick. Research has shown that the more connected we are socially, the longer we will live and the faster we will recover when we get ill. In truth, isolation and loneliness puts us at a greater risk for early disease and death than smoking. Authentic social connection has a profound effect on your mental health. It even exceeds the value of exercise and ideal body weight on your physical health. It makes you feel good. Social connections triggers the same reward centers in your brain that are triggered when people do drugs or drink alcohol or eat chocolate. In other words, we get sick alone and we get well together. I learned the lesson when I was too young to comprehend during my time with Ruth. The grand finale of the magic that Ruth taught me was the ultimate insight, not only that the only way to truly change and transform your life for the better is by transforming and changing the lives of others. So, there was a couple of other videos that we talked about and a couple of other programs that we talked about. One was the Harvard study on happiness. I don't know if anybody was here for that, but there's a study going on, has been going on at Harvard for 75 years now. And it started where they took a group of Harvard students and they went into the section of Boston and took a group of young adults in Boston and studied them for years in terms of how they progress with their health and happiness. Expecting or anticipating that the Harvard students would probably be the healthiest and the happiest, and that was not the case. It was the individuals that had a connection with family and with friends that were the healthiest and the happiest. The same thing with blue zones. I don't know, is anyone familiar with the blue zones? We've talked about this quite often, okay? Blue Zone is that was research that was funded by National Geographic. And what they did is they found 6 areas around the world where it was common for people to live into their early hundreds and to live a active lifestyle. And they came up with 9 common characteristics that these 6 different areas had. And one of them was the connection that they had with family and with friends. So that's a big connection or a big reason for health and happiness. I go into another video, I think. Yep. Okay, so this is Dr. James Doty. This is what he calls the alphabet of the heart practice. Okay, we have them written down in your program. So let's see if we can't get this to play. And it does. Just when you think it's not going to,
I'd like to
it's
introduce my mentor and friend, great teacher, Dr. James Doty. He's head of the Center for Compassion over at Stanford University in California. And he's going to be sharing with you one of his favorite reflective exercises, actually. It's called Alphabet of the Heart. So just sit back, relax, and enjoy him explaining this, and then have a go at that guided reflection today to reflect upon the alphabet of the heart. Over to James.
Everyone has the ability to change how they see the world. And some people use a mindfulness practice or a mindfulness compassion practice. And I've been meditating for many years, but the practice that I do now is a result of really reflecting on what I have learned over many years. I reflected on my own journey, and I came up with a mnemonic that has become my practice. And it's 10 letters of the alphabet. And what happens is every morning I sit and I reflect on these 10 letters and go through each of them with intention. And the first is the letter C, to remind me to be compassionate to myself and others. Next is D, and that reminds me to recognize the dignity of every person. Oftentimes we have a tendency perhaps to look down on another person or not think that they're as or that they are as important as we are. And by doing that with intention, it makes you understand that really the only way to look at another is eye to eye. E is equanimity. Oftentimes in our lives we have ups and downs, and when we're up we want to hold on to that because it makes us feel so good. And when we're down, we want to escape it or we want to get away from it. But the reality is that oftentimes during those down periods we can learn something, as well as the up periods. But having an evenness of emotion as you go through life's up and downs causes you not to hang on to the extremes, but to see the reality that having a sense of calmness, no matter what happens to you, is really a gift. F is forgiveness. So many people hold on to an event that happened to them. And remember, events have no power, you give them power. And when someone angers you or does something to you that you feel you didn't deserve, you carry anger with you. And the analogy has been made that when you do so, it's like drinking poison and somehow thinking it's going to affect the other person. It doesn't. When you forgive someone, and this is not to say you forget the event that happened, but when you forgive someone and recognize that they, like you, have injured others, and they may not have realized it, or there are other things going on in their life, and you simply forgive them and don't hold that anger, it's an amazing gift that you can give to yourself. G is having gratitude. So many people forget that most of the people outside of the West are living lives that are much, much more difficult than their own. And we have a tendency to look up at others who we think have better lives than us, or more money, or more status. And when we do that, it results in us not being present for our lives. We're always thinking about what could be, or what we want, or what we think we want. But really, the things that actually make us the most happy, are simply being present with the events that are unfolding and not being distracted. So having gratitude for your position and what you have is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And it's amazing. When you go to a third world country, as an example, you see people who have very, very little. But it's amazing because when they have shelter, when they have security, when they have food, when they have family, they're extraordinarily, extraordinarily happy. They're laughing, they're joyous. And then we look at people in the West oftentimes who seemingly have everything and they're complaining. So having gratitude is another gift that you can give yourself. One of the most difficult ones for a neurosurgeon is humility. But again, there's a tendency to somehow think you're better than another person. And again, having humility and not either bragging about what you have or trying to impress people, and recognize that we're really all connected and we're all the same. When you're able to put yourself in that position, it's a wonderful joy because people connect with you. People want to be with you. I tell my residents, the medical students who I teach, that you can always tell a good doctor because when he walks down the hallway, he knows the names of the nurses, he knows the names of the janitors, the service people, even the kitchen personnel, because he recognizes, or she recognizes, that they cannot do their job without those people, and those people are critically important. And he has gratitude for their presence in helping him do his or her job. And having humility really is one of the most powerful things that you can have, and as a result, it makes your life happier because you connect. I is integrity, or having personal values that you live by, where you have a sense of core values that define who you are. J is for justice. Again, this is to recognize our responsibility for the gifts that we have is to care for those who are most vulnerable. K is kindness, simply giving to others. L finally encompasses it all, and that's love. So that's my practice. And in fact, there's an interesting story. After probably a couple months from that talk, I got an email from a woman, and she said, I'm the spiritual director of the largest homeless shelter in the United States. And as a result, I became burned out in my job. I couldn't do it anymore. And she said, my friends had sent me all sorts of scripture, and nothing seemed to really have an impact on me. And my last day at work, someone showed me your talk on the alphabet of the heart, which is what it's become called. And she said, it so moved me, it gave me the strength to return to work. A few months later, she sent me another email, and she said, I started using this practice on our clients, and it's been very, very powerful. And again, both of these emails moved me to tears. And then she sent me another email, and she said, my friend's daughter makes beads, and as you know, in many religions, our malas or prayer beads have been created to allow people to reinforce their practice. And she said, my friend's daughter made a set of beads, wooden beads, based on those 10 letters of the alphabet. And she also added a golden bead to represent the golden rule. And she said, I want to send you some, but would you mind if we sell these as a fundraiser for our homeless shelter? And of course, I immediately agreed. And then a few months later, she sent me another email. And she said, we made this videotape. And it basically goes over the power of these beads and how by repetition and intention, by going through each of those letters, this actually creates compassion, super neural highways. So what I do now is every morning I sit by my bed with these beads, and with intention I go through each one, and ending on the golden one to remind me to practice the golden rule. And throughout the day I keep those beads in my pocket, and I arbitrarily pick one of those letters and reflect on it for a few moments. So that really has become my practice.
The 10 letters to live by. Anybody have any thoughts that one of those particular letters means something more than others to you? Anybody?
What are the beads?
Go ahead. Maggie?
They are also familiar to me because of the courses that I've taken, but a course that I taught in high school, comparative world religions.
Good.
Every single religion around the world,
Yeah.
from natives to present day, have these as their foundations.
Yep.
And it's what they developed, and without those, you wouldn't have religious groups of people populating the earth.
Yep.
It is the foundation
Yep.
of the human condition,
Yep.
the good side,
Right.
that overpowers the other side.
Good.
Red and blue wolf, whatever.
Good.
Mhm.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
You can use this to change the whole tone of a mood that might be going on around you. I do this practice with a friend similar to this, but it's with the whole alphabet. We walk in the woods a lot and on the beaches, and sometimes there's stuff going on. You find yourself talking too much about, we do the alphabet, and we use words like these, kindness words, words related to yoga, words related to nature, and we take turns, go through the whole alphabet. By the time we get to the end, it's all back, we're back down to,
Yeah.
nothing matters but being outside
Right.
in nature with your feet
Yeah.
on the ground,
Yeah.
breathing.
Great.
It's similar.
Good. Good. Anybody else? Okay. So again, compassion, dignity, equanimity, forgiveness, gratitude, humility, integrity, justice, kindness, and love. And again, I think inside you have the name of the YouTube video that you just watched. So, give yourself permission to take time to breathe, to live life, to give to love, to reflect, to be present, and to just be. So, we're going to close with just another opportunity for Felicia to really sort of sing one of her meaningful, beautiful songs, and to really sort of close with a kind of a little bit of a meditative end to the evening. Okay?
Yeah. This has been an amazing amount of amazing information and tools. So we're going to just take this time to connect inside and open ourselves to connecting. So just again, feel like I don't even have to tell you, you already know. You already uncrossed your legs and put your feet on the floor, right? I mean, that's amazing. Why do we do that? Why do I suggest that we do that? Does anyone know? Grounding, yeah. And it opens us, you know, it also gives us awareness, you know, like just about where we are. It just connects us. I'm doing it to my students all the time. I drive them
If I
crazy.
can interrupt, we were
Yeah.
talking about grounding. In one of our programs, we talked about walking the beach. We talk about grounding by walking barefoot and what the benefits that is to your body to be grounded to the earth. And we would think back to many, many years ago, when, you know, in the beginning of time, nobody wore Nikes or sneakers or sandals. They were all barefoot. And there really is a certain powerful connection when you were able to be grounded and be barefoot to the earth. So.
Absolutely. So just take some deep breaths, feel yourself in the chair. I know I'm yawning a lot myself, so that a lot of times that's just energy moving. And just settle in. And maybe from your memory, just allow one of those words, one of those letters to come into your awareness. Don't think too hard about it. Which one pops into your mind? And just as I'm singing this, just reflect on that one word, just for a little bit. And if you get sick of that, you can let it go. But just to give yourself a little bit of focus, just to see what it comes. My word is equanimity. So you just remember what yours is. Oh, I am learning how to be brave, even when I think I don't know. Will I stand up and I fall down, get up again and look around, practice trust, feel the doubt. I breathe in and I breathe out. I breathe in and I breathe out. I breathe in, I breathe out. Breathe in. We are all learning how to be awake and stay in the flow. We are all learning how to be brave, even when we think we don't know. We stand up, we fall down, get up again and look around. Practice trust, feel the doubt. We breathe in and we breathe out. I am you and you are me. Wrong. Birthing a brand new seed. It's okay to take a break, laugh a little while we wake, dance around like a fool, forget everything you learned in school. Open up and feel what's true. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. And just to end this time together, I'm going to invite you to make a sound with me. This is a sound of Om. It just connects us. We'll do it 3 times so you can ease your way into it. So take a deep breath in and then a big exhale out. And then we'll breathe in and we'll Om together. Two more times.
Thank you, thank you.
Everybody in the world on board, we can do that together, we might find some progress.
Someone will be praying with you. Every time you pray on Friday, you'll be praying with someone else around the world.
Cool.
Pray for peace.
For those who are joining us tonight for the first time and maybe not on our mailing list, there's a registration here, if you don't mind just filling it out, so we can get you on our mailing list, and hopefully we'll see you again. Our next program is going to be on October 17th, and I think we're going to do a change of time. We'll go social time and smoothies from 6 to 6:30, and then we'll start the program at 6:30, so that hopefully we're over by 7:45, because again, I know it's getting darker and darker, and by then we'll be into daylight savings, right? Are we?
Yeah.
So,
They have to take some of these.
yep, I will. Yes, go ahead.
You know what, I had mentioned it to your wife, but
Yep.
last time you were here and you
Yep.
used the red and the blue. the
Yep.
Red mind, blue mind.
Right.
red.
Yep.
All the things that were done with the studies of the brain
Yep,
that were coming out in the 80s and 90s when I was teaching,
yep,
and all the videos that have been made that have been used in school,
right,
right progressively through that.
yep,
The dyes that they use when they do the PET scans and different scans of the brain,
Yep.
even body, but the brain comes out in blues and reds
yep,
in those scans.
yep,
And it's amazing,
yeah,
because if you went back and really looked at each study that was being done,
yeah,
I bet the reds and the blues divide
yeah,
into the same
Mhm.
areas that control
yeah,
all of what we're talking about.
yeah, interesting,
That was confusion.
interesting,
Mhm.
yeah.